Last time I was sitting next to her was 5 years ago. At the very first.
The very first.
The very first.
Oh, the first or the second?
It was the first one in D.C. Remember, it snowed.
In D.C. It snowed. We were supposed to be at the Smithsonian.
Yes, supposed to be at the Smithsonian. So I'm from the West Coast, right? So I'm thinking like every East Coast city knows what to do when it snows. Except for that
Except for D.C.
Except for that one. It was almost like it snowed for the very first time in D.C. But it was beautiful, though. We pivoted to the hotel, and it was amazing just to walk into the room and just feel the love that was in the room. And you did your solo talk there. It's a little different from that hotel room at the Marriott downstairs, right?
Big time. And I just want to start off, Dwayne, by acknowledging you. Because when I walked into this space, now it was 5 years since I've been part of the BFF in this regard.
Right.
And it's my first time in this space.
Yeah.
And so when I think about what you built off of your Black genius,
Right.
and off of your ability to cultivate your creativity in a way that you saw space to pour into others, and I walked into this space for the first time, I am humbled to be here. I am honored to know you.
Thank you.
Because I know what you've done
on.
for me. And I thank you I'm glad to have this opportunity to acknowledge you in that regard.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you. See, we was about to talk about that. I know you. We've worked together for a while, and it was some of the best times in my career, honestly.
Mine too.
Team was a little struggle from time to time, but that's all right, it's normal. But for those in the audience who just now getting a glimpse of you and hearing your genius, when did the idea of footwear come into fruition, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you've always spent money on shoes, right? But
My mom and daddy's money.
yes. So when did you know that, oh, okay, maybe I should do this a little bit differently, and this becomes, hey, mom and dad, this was actually an investment, see?
Yeah.
Like, I got a job at the footwear company.
I don't know if it started purely with footwear.
Okay.
But I think all of us here probably have our first footwear memory.
Right.
And mine was the Air Jordan 13.
So
that was the first shoe that,
Black Cat.
yep,
Yeah.
that was the first shoe that I actually identified as something that I wanted.
Wow.
And my parents made me earn that.
Oh, okay.
They didn't just give it to me.
Okay.
They made me earn it. And so that was a first lesson in the pursuit of something, you've got to work to get it first. The second thing about the AJ13, it was more so MJ. If anyone that grew up watching him play, he was the ultimate symbol of Black excellence.
Right.
And so I felt like standing in his shoes gave me that same feeling, right? And I didn't know at that time what my version of that would look like,
Right.
but I know that I wanted to feel that way.
Okay.
And so that started my first relationship with, just with footwear and the connection of excellence, but also the connection to self-expression. And so my journey really, took me through how do I figure out to find ways that fill my cup is what I say. I think all of us know when we feel filled, when we feel complete in the work that we're doing, you're at that highest peak of joy and purpose. But also it's allowing you to feel like you're reflecting something that's really personal in yourself. So I've always been in my career trying to find how to match purpose, joy, and fill in roles that feel like they're part of my expression of what I want to bring. So that was the genesis for it.
Okay, that's good.
And how it sort
I
of
didn't know that story about you. Okay. All right, that's good.
But full circle, that was my first shoe. And then when did you and I meet? Working at Jordan together.
Yes, working at Jordan together. There you go. That's funny. That's crazy. Okay, good. Now, you 20 plus years. Black don't crack, y'all. Look at that. Don't crack. When you're at Nike Inc., I would say Nike Inc., right? And if you're there long enough, you'll have multiple roles. And then these multiple roles will put you in certain rooms in different places. And most of the time, I would imagine during your 20-plus career, from an Inc. perspective, you were probably the only one who looked like you in those rooms, right? over that time, how did your awareness style grow? How did your management style grow? Like, how did you better understand how to navigate those roles and those rooms and those people and those positions to where you're sitting today?
I would say sort of like Jameson, which was a beautiful moment that we all witnessed.
Yes. Yep.
My ability to learn how to navigate those spaces started with my village. I'm an only child. I was raised and stewarded in a belief in the Most High and the purpose and the path that he puts forth for us. I'm a solo mom, and my dad was a retired colonel.
Ooh.
And my mom was a teacher.
Ooh. Okay.
He was an active colonel back then.
Okay.
And so the lessons I learned from my dad would wake up every morning, put on a pressed uniform, and polish his shoes every morning without fail. And so there was a sense of integrity.
Wow.
There was a sense of purpose. There was a sense of focus and commitment to him filling that role and that stewardship that he felt, not just for the military, but for us as a family.
Okay.
On the other side, my mom. I don't know if any of you have moms like this, but my mom loves, when we order food at a restaurant, my mom wants to sample everything off of everybody else's plate. Is anybody like that? And when I actually think about why my mom does that, she's the one that tapped me into my creative source. She's always curious. She's always been curious about things. So she's always curious. I want to taste what you have. I want to taste how. She wanted to taste everybody's food.
Did she order something for herself?
She ordered her food,
Okay.
but she would want something off of everybody else's plate.
But did she share that food with somebody else?
Yeah, she would.
Okay, all right,
She would.
okay, all right.
And so begrudgingly at times, but actually when I think about it, it's so innate to who my mom is.
Okay.
So she actually was the person, as I said, that tapped me into my creative center because of the curiosity that she had. And I honestly believe that she wanted to unlock in me. My mom took me to art museums. My mom put me on stages to speak.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
My mom drove me to DC to play in the orchestra.
Wow.
My mom allowed me to go to space camp when I thought that I wanted to be an astronaut. So every creative curiosity that I had, my mom unlocked in me or allowed for me to explore. And so I do that to my son, who's, since he was born, I've done the same for him. So I share that to say, and then the other thing I'll say is, so I've got my dad military, regiment, structure, you know, discipline, shining of the shoes, my mom, creative, curious, a nomad, you know, in terms of all the intersections. But my parents were also boomers. And so anyone who's a byproduct of boomers understood their assignment in culture and in the civil rights movement. My dad fought in Vietnam.
Wow.
He came home feeling unappreciated as a black soldier. My mom got arrested, you know, being part of civil rights protests. So imagine the gumbo that they have as me as the only child, right? Pouring all of this into me. So when you ask me what prepared me, my village prepared me.
Wow.
My village poured into me.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And so, you know, my parents had to flex in so many intersections. They prepared me in seeing the fullness of my blackness and affirming me in that. Wow. They helped me learn how to navigate spaces where my blackness might not have been as a parent. So coming into corporate culture, I was affirmed in my blackness. And because I had this powerful combination of what my parents pulled in on me, I knew how to be in spaces that might not always represent that as well. Easy? No.
Right.
But I give so much credit to what my village did for me in the same way I heard James's father, you know, talk about him as well. So
that's very cool. So that explains the Jedi mind tricks. So Brandis, when we work together, and we'll talk about product process, the creation. So how many of y'all work at a brand on the product creation side? Raise your hand. Okay, a couple of them. So I'm on the design side, Brandis on the product marketing side, and
it's always this.
Yeah, always, you know, always this, right? But she mastered, and she was the only woman too, by the way, between both sides actually, until Kim came.
Yeah.
But she was the master at.
And Suzette.
And Suzette, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, two strong people. There you go. But you were the master at the Jedi mind trick, though. Like, you was the master at, like, she was really, actually, this is probably a woman's trait. Like, you guys probably born this way, of convincing men, like, what you think is your idea is really their idea. She did that with product all the time with the design team. So we felt good talking to Brandis. The other dudes, we didn't like talking to them. But with Brandis, it was like, okay, Brandis is reasonable. We could talk to Brandis, like, we get along, she compromises. And then later on, you realize, damn it. Like, I just got talked into her idea. So now I understand how you got that from your mom and your dad. Creative structure.
There we go.
Creative structure.
Yeah,
You still do that today?
I do.
Okay.
Don't get me in trouble. I got a meeting on Monday morning, so.
Okay. But do you think that you have to do that even more so now because you probably have some younger folks working with you that, sometimes young folks think they're the first ones ever to do anything.
Yeah.
And the old heads, and technically you an old head, sorry, I didn't mean to break that to you, that they don't necessarily listen because they think like, oh, that was the way you did it, but this is new. Yeah. Right? Yeah. There's nothing wrong with both.
Yeah. No, and one of the things two things. One, the fact that Dwayne created space for me on the business side to be able to be part of the creative process was something special. Because the business people were usually the folks that were watering down the creative ideas. But I have always been a bit of a left brain, right brain individual. So I believe in the pursuit of creativity, but I've always tried to balance that with the pursuit of purpose and a little bit of structure in it as well. So one, just being able to be part of that space, the best work comes out of the collective genius.
Yes, I agree.
And you have to have the intersection of multiple disciplines, experiences, life experiences, work experience to unlock that. So as young creatives, to Dwayne's point, like no one person has all of the answers, even
on either side.
On either side.
Yeah.
And so being willing to open up your creative process to allow others to influence you, finding places to like work through compromise, which isn't always letting go of something. It can also be letting in something else, right?
Correct.
Compromise is always seen as the deficit versus like the reciprocation. And so I think just as young people are cultivating their creativity, know that part of great ideas have come from the combination of like arrogant youthfulness, that's always challenging. Why not? I've always done that. It's great. Yeah. But seasoned with a little bit of decades of experience as well is a very powerful combination. Right. And the old heads need to recognize that as well, right? And so if you've been doing this for a while, you can't be on the side of like, that's always how we've done it. You need to also embrace some of the youthful arrogance that might disrupt design, that might disrupt retail, that might disrupt patterns that you've had. So I believe in constantly being a steward in life, no matter where we are collectively on our journey.
No, that's good. Thank you for that. And hopefully the young folks who are working in a corporate structure, there's things that you can learn from each other, and there's things that you can learn from people who are 10 years senior, 20 years senior, 30 years senior. But for those who are those 10, 20, and 30, there's also things you can learn from the people that are not senior to you as well.
Can I just add one other thing on that? I think the other really important thing for those of us who are trying to create space for young creatives, it's to not put a period on any idea.
Correct.
I've learned to try to lead less with statements and lead more with curiosity. Again, I'm coming back to where my mom taught me on that. So when you put a period on an idea, you're not leaving space for the creativity to flow. Right. And I think sometimes that's where young people feel challenged by people who've been in business for a while, been in industry in a while, because you just put a period on my idea. And so those of us have done this for a while to like keep young people engaged. Let's try not to put periods on their
That's good. I like
ideas,
that.
right? And so I always believe there's either a comma or a dot, dot, dot.
Right.
And so now you bring in youthful arrogance of why not, seasoned experience of here's how you could do it.
Right.
But within that, create space for there to not be fear or constraint in people's process.
That's beautiful. I like that a lot. You are now VP and GM. You got two initials in front of your name. I'm proud of you. Like,
Thank you.
I mean, we were grinding at the same time, and for y'all don't know, like Jordan Brand wasn't always a Jordan Brand that y'all see today. Like we were understaffed, overworked. It was rough, but it was really the people. Even though we didn't always see eye to eye with each other, we just loved what we were doing, and we were doing it through that lens, and we kept that as the focus.
Yeah.
Now in this new role, now you're more senior, and now you have to create the opportunities for the people below you, right? So now, do you ever see your younger self as in the GM, VP GM? Let me get that right.
Yeah.
The VP GM role. Now it's on you to develop your team. It's on you to establish processes or processes. Is that right? One of those two words, right? How do you approach that? Like, how do you approach that concept of now it's on you to be, you're responsible for the culture, you're responsible for the staff, you're responsible for the processes.
Yeah.
How does that, now wearing that title, how does that look for you?
I think that's more of the title that I wear, is the responsibility that I have to do that.
Right.
You know, the blueprint came from folks like you, from Suzette, for those who know Gentry. There's a number of people in this room. I saw Wilson, I've seen Ron, just people who poured into me, title agnostic. You saw your responsibility of shaping talent around you. Title agnostic, my responsibility and the place that I am to actually influence more is to do the same. So I have to take the blueprint that you created that gave me space, and I see my responsibility is to open up the space even wider. And so I heard on one of the other panels, the women talking about, you know, sometimes there's a sense of like someone taking your spot. I want to create the next person or help pour in the next person who does take my spot.
Right.
I want that individual not to be me, but to be their best self and the excellence that they pursue and what it is. So I want to retire myself out so the next, you know, version of whoever is ready to come in. And so that's how I see creating space and making the space wider. And so one, how do I pour into others? But then in leadership roles, we're in places to now build teams that reflect the type of culture that we want to have, right? And so either through hiring, either through intentional coaching, kind and direct feedback, right? My job now is to be able to teach somebody else to build the blueprint that you and others have stewarded and given me the responsibility to do. The thing about the blueprint that I learned is that you all didn't draw it for us. You taught us how to architect it. And so I was talking to Howard White, over at the Jordan Brand this last week, and he said that the difference, especially through the early parts of the Jordan time frame, was that we weren't told what to do, but we were taught how to do it. And so there's something special in understanding how to teach. And so that's the blueprint you left. That's the blueprint that I've tried to put on my shoulders to make the space that you help create wider, and then being intentional and building and hiring teams that reflect that culture that I hope it exponentially increases beyond the buildings of even the brand that I'm at, because those people leave and go other places as well.
No, it's true. Thank you for that. I can't remember where I heard it, but early in my career, I heard the statement, if you're managing anyone and they don't get better on your watch, half of that is your fault.
Yeah.
The other half is their fault.
Yeah.
And hopefully you have a relationship with the people you manage where you establish that 50-50 opportunity. Because when you're working at a big corporation, your job is to tell them what you need for the business, right? Their job is to tell you what they need to do what you ask them to do. Yeah. And you hold each other accountable. Yeah. When you have that 50-50 relationship, then the people below you will get better on your watch. Yeah. But if they don't, that's your fault. Yeah. And you should own that. Same as mentorship and other things. So that's great. Now we have an audience, different varying stages of their careers, different varying ages in the room. What tips can you give them to help them navigate, especially you can start with Black women, but what tips could you give them to navigate in the corporate structure when they may be the only one in the room? You can tell them the Jedi stuff outside so the brothers don't hear it. But
we'll keep the cheat codes off.
Yes, yeah, I know how y'all work. Brothers, we got to figure that out. We got to get on the same page at least, so when we see it coming, we can duck. We just keep taking it every single time. But no, what advice could you give some of the young folks and the more seasoned folks in the audience that could help them better navigate, not only in the corporate structure, but even if they are entrepreneurs themselves and they're managing folks?
Well, I would first say to the ladies in the audience.
Yes.
Part of navigating this is not playing small. And so we all get told about the glass ceiling, but it's glass. So when you look up, you shouldn't see anything that's confining you, right? And so when you play small, you're letting perceptions of others shrink your space. And so, again, my village taught me to play big. And you might not have a familial village, but you've got friends. You have to pick up people in your network or build a network that are affirming you and lifting you up. And so learn not to feel like as females you're confined in that space. The second thing I would say, a lot of typical archetypes of leaders are alpha masculine energy. For women, our superpower is the femininity in which we exude. We are mothers, we are daughters, we are sisters, and by nature, we're nurturers. Yeah. And so connecting, leadership is nothing more than a study of human behavior.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
And so we have the ability to cut masculine energy that can create that suffocating space because of all the natural traits that we have. Right. Ego and fear, low vibrations. Yeah. Affirmation, care, high vibration. So all of us think about the vibration, and I calculated to weather. I had a coach actually teach me this. Think about the weather you bring into the rooms that you're in. You know what bad weather looks like, right? Yep. You know when people are bringing attitude, negative energy, they had a bad day. And I might have had a meeting or two, I brought bad energy in too, so we all have them, right? But be intentional on the weather that you bring and the weather that you want to receive. Your temperature can change the room. That's true. And so as women, the glass ceiling is something that you can't see, it's perceived. Don't play small, play big. Wow. Lean into your feminine energy as your superpower of leadership because innately you'll have the instincts to dominate masculine energy. Wow. And then, y'all
heard that, right, fellas? She slid that. She threw some of them in earlier. I don't know if y'all caught it, but she was a little bit more direct that time. Yes, okay.
And, understand that leadership is a study of human behaviors. Yeah. And so don't be the ones that are bringing low vibrations and frequency and space. You can't influence through that. Right. People that I talk to, I'm like, if someone's matching you with ego, you can't match ego with ego. Right. You can't match fear with ego. And so if you check the temperature that you're bringing, the weather that you're bringing, you can find that you can break down and demystify a lot of the corporate culture, norms that I think people think are more tricky than they are if you just understand that each one of us is human.
That's beautiful. I'm going to steal 2 more minutes. After you retire and you teaching at PLC, what do you want to leave the industry with?
Gosh.
After your time is over, like, what do you want
I don't feel like my
people-
time will ever be over,
Okay,
though.
I like that.
You know?
See how she dodged the bullet of not wanting to teach?
That doesn't mean that I won't teach, though. I'm just saying,
all right.
time, like, when I hear it that way, I guess I feel like somehow my journey is done.
No,
right?
It
so
just
that's how
starts
I
all
heard
over
it.
again.
Yeah, it just
starts
starts
all
over again. I heard someone say earlier, like, you measure your legacy and impact. So I'd want to, you can't, like, I can't sit here and say I can quantify impact, but in small ways, I think you can understand when you cross people in different parts of their journey in life, and they're able to share with you the impact that you had. That's very meaningful. Same way I hope you felt that from me,
Yes,
and sharing that
absolutely.
with you. And so I think there's an aspect of impact. You know, industry is so big, Dwayne. I think about just the confines of what I can control, and that's the weather I bring to the people around me. And I am a mother, right?
Yes. And a great one at that, too.
And I think about the 15-year-old son that I'm raising. And so I don't think about my impact so much from an industry perspective, but maybe on the lives, his life in particular, the lives of those that are not just in my familial village, but in this village as well. So many people that I am connected with, not by blood, but by our creative pursuits and our desire to like thrive in our Black excellence. And so if in some small way I brought sun and warmth to their journey and they felt that reciprocated, then I appreciate that. And in some way I've created a human being that you all connect with in life that told you that I'm their mama and they're a good person.
Yes.
I hope that's the legacy that I'm able to leave behind.
I love that. Brandis, y'all. You always bring good weather.